Was it faked? Tuatara is a very sleek and beautiful car, making a crap ton of horsepower. It begs the question of, if it was faked, how can they be so dumb in this day and age? This is probably gonna make some people mad, but I'm just gonna call BS. If they faked it, that would create news. What's up, people? So today I'm finishing up doing a little bit of work on the King Zero V12 prototype, and the news on the street, the buzz in the waves, or whatever, is the controversy surrounding the SSC Tuatara's world record speed run of well into the 300 and some mile an hour range out in Nevada desert. Now, as the internet does, it's all ablaze. Shmee150 talked about this, I don't know, like yesterday, and it's hitting a bunch of different aspects in the automotive media online, and it's kind of blowing up. The Tuatara allegedly has done a speed record, of course going one direction and then the other direction, and having an average speed of 316 miles an hour and change. The first run being 301 miles an hour and change, and the second run being 331 miles an hour and change. All of which are spectacular. The Tuatara is a very sleek and beautiful car, making a crap ton of horsepower, about 1,750. So, you know, it has a good chance at going pretty fast. Now, first thing I have to point out about cars that I don't think a lot of people realize, there are certain mechanical and physical limits toward how much power you can actually put to the ground with wheels spinning and not actually having like a jet acting upon the air. So we're getting into a realm of cars that's getting a little silly. That's food for thought for another time, but these are lessons learned on Bonneville. Obviously Bonneville is a different condition than asphalt, but I want to bring it, let's talk about this record run. Let's talk about the controversy and the Koenigsegg Agera that previously had the record well into the 200s. Now, long story short, the controversy is coming out because in the video, it shows a certain miles per hour on telemetry. Apparently, the speedo in the car was blurred for whatever reason. And if you watch the video, there are things of known distances or close to known distances that are going by at a rate that is different in the video or potentially slower than what it is portraying itself to do in speed. One, the marks that you see on the pavement on American highway, and we know what the distance and size of those are supposed to be, as well as you can see clearly the separations between the boundaries on the roadway. These are clues to let you know if it's in the ballpark or not. So people are basically saying, long story short, instead of being in the low to mid 300 mile an hour range, it's in the higher 200 mile an hour range, which clearly changes the complexion of a lot of things. Now, the SSC company apparently had this backed up by GPS, who are saying it's good to go. And a lot of controversy is coming out and saying, well, maybe they showed video from a different run, and then they showed the telemetry from their world speed record run because they had a technical difficulty and then just didn't tell anybody. And maybe they faked it, okay? And there's other things that could come into play. Now, obviously, if you guys speed up or slow down a video, I'll give you a perfect example. Watch Rob Pitt's most recent video of his NASCAR going around an oval. He's clearly turned on the fast forward. So it's pretty easy to tell when somebody is speeding up or slowing something down. And in this circumstance, it begs the question of, if it was faked, how can they be so dumb in this day and age that literally everybody and their brother has fantastic video equipment, timing equipment, and there's lots of people with time on their hands that are big fans of this sort of thing to scrutinize it. This isn't exactly the day and age of having a picture and calling it the Loch Ness Monster. So I want to bring up a few items that are food for thought on top speeds of things. Numbers get fudged all the time. Okay, and obviously this is a speed run, so it's a little bit different scenario. But whenever an entity, whatever that may be, puts out a press release or gets with a PR type person to get something into the automotive news that doesn't happen naturally, and what I mean by to say what naturally is, so let's say I do a video, and this has happened a time or two on my channel. I do a video, someone from the automotive media sees it, thinks it's real cool, shares it, it blows up, goes viral naturally. That's real reporting. So like the Omega car, The white one here this summer when we first started driving it, it hit a bunch of different outlets because people were like, dang, a recyclable car that's potentially going to do 100 miles a gallon and be really fast. This is really cool. So it got press. But usually what happens when something big does this, especially when it's something that is orchestrated and planned, there's press releases and PR people. And they put out a press release and you tell the people what you want, and you get journalists that, first of all, most of them are lazy journalists, and they just take an article that already exists or comes right out, rewords it, maybe finds other pictures and puts it out there as their own, or they just share it, okay? So like the rubber stamp part of media. And then you get the little bit better journalist that'll at least interview somebody. And then there's going to be a smaller percentage of that would potentially even fact check it. They don't have time for that. That's right. I mean, our whole society right now with the media is just loony saying whatever they want and not fact checking anything. It's kind of like somebody recently I saw on Facebook, it's like, let me get this straight. When it comes to the world and goings on and politics and news, and all this thing, and there are dedicated fact checkers to see if everything's correct or not, why don't we take these dedicated fact checkers and have them present regularly, publicly, and we'll just call it the news? Which is sort of funny and tongue-in-cheek. So what I mean to say is you cannot believe everything you see. Like 13-year-old boys, they're just going to take it and believe that it's true, probably when they see something, even though they're probably getting a lot smarter nowadays from it. But a budding hypercar company or whatever shouldn't want to fake something or put something out there that's fudged, because people are going to figure it out. If I accidentally pronounce a word incorrectly on my YouTube channel, even though these are generally all one take and unedited, somebody's going to call me out on it. So you know as well as I do that somebody is going to call out a car company if they fudge it. So, one, people are going, was it faked? Which I have to beg the question to you. Who cares? Whoa, now hold up. I'm not copying an attitude, of which I have done sometimes. I'm bringing that up as an actual topic of conversation. Not who cares with regard to the car company or cars in general going fast, although that's a question in itself. Who cares is this. If they faked it, that would create news, wouldn't it? Okay, now let's think of this. Let's say they did the thing where they had the run from a previous attempt, which was slower, but then they had the data acquisition and telemetry and GPS from the actual speed run, and they put them together and like blurred the speed in the video, but the other stuff is correct. Well, guess what? It doesn't take a rocket scientist or a math magician to figure out that somebody's going to figure that out. And it's going to create a controversy and news and everything from goofball YouTubers talking about it, which in this day and age of social media and algorithms is going to create the synapses of a brain to give them a lot more publicity. So it's possible they just decided to mess it up on purpose, but they actually did do it. So it would cause a lot of controversy, and then they get a lot of eyes on them, which basically gets deemed, yes, they get the record, or we do the other thing is, in terms of who cares. I say who cares because it doesn't matter. If they got the record and the car still runs, and in this day and age, I imagine it runs, and it's not some nitromethane fuel death machine, of which this is the one time they did it and somehow survived. I don't think that's the case. Then shut down some more roadways, get a driver that's swinging a pair, put your foot down, and set another record. Invite a lot of people, have a lot of video, third parties and stuff, and let them do it. Or maybe they already planned that because they would get a buzz and a controversy going and then do this again so that they can get an exponential amount of media. So those are all possibilities. I do want to point something else out, and this is probably going to make some people mad, but I'm just going to call BS on it, maybe to my own detriment. So here's something interesting. So you guys see behind me, Lycan Hypersport built with Genius Garage. That's the Fast and the Furious related stunt car body. Now, I was looking up back in the day relating to W Motors and the Lycan Hypersport. And if you go to, I was going to say VinWiki. If you go to Wikipedia and you look on here, it apparently made 780 horsepower from its 3.7 or 3.8 liter twin turbocharged flat six, which as we know is basically a Porsche block with a twin turbo engine. So if you got 780 horsepower on that car, you can generally get an idea of how quick it's going to go. However, when you come down here to top speed, it's claimed 245 miles an hour with that car shaped like that with 780 horsepower. Interesting. Now, the car behind me, this yellow IMSA Corvette right there, makes 700 horsepower. And I'm telling you right now, that thing, I'm sure it'll go over 200 miles an hour, but not a ton. So with only 80 horsepower more, they're claiming that thing does 245 miles an hour. It's shaped like a brick, okay? That car is not a clear wind tunnel studied car. The radiators in front are basically stock Porsche's stuff, and it's riddled with parasitic drag from all the sharp edges and stuff. I don't believe a W Motors Lykan Hypersport could go 245 miles an hour. And I'm sorry for the people at the car company right now that are watching because you're seeing this. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. If you would like to do it again, then tell you what, give me some plane tickets on the Emirates Airlines or whatever. I hear you got one of your production cars left over. Tune it up, put some new tires on it, and let me drive it and I'll verify it. But I do not think that car did 245 miles an hour the way it's shaped. Sorry. I still think it's an amazing car. I just think these numbers are off. And that's what happens on the internet. It's what happens. Like way back in the day when I did the world's only turbine-powered Batmobile, when people re-report on it, they change things every so often. So if you say something has 500 horsepower or about, it'll change eventually. It's like the game of telephone. So, you know, like, you cannot believe everything you see. You just can't. Oh my God. I mean, it's 2020. Hey, there's a reason why you get rid of the news, like you get rid of everything, because it's bull crap. And I know this because I see it happen behind the scenes. It's the stupidest thing ever. Like, I don't even know where to go from here. But the point is, you know, maybe they faked it. That's suicidal if they did that. Maybe they put stuff together badly on purpose because it would create a controversy. Then they have to do it again and get more publicity. I mean, Shmee150 just reported on it. He's what, 2.2 million something or other. He's bigger than basically every automotive magazine and journal thing out there. Okay? I mean, even my channel at the size it is bigger than most automotive magazines. I'm getting the same daily views as the NTT IndyCar series. Like, come on, you get people talking about it, and I'm going to go back to my question. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? Like, I mean, for how many years have we been watching people with way too much money build way too much horsepower in some pointy exotic car and doing speeds that, like, just don't matter? Like, at what point does this not matter anymore? At what point? At what point? Like, discover freaking warp drive or cold fusion. Like, do something cool. Like, who cares? I tell you what would get publicity if I want. I'm putting my feet on tools here. Tell you what, you build me something cool enough like a Tuatara that we can buy for 50 grand. That's freaking cool. Tell you what, it only does 180 miles an hour, but it sounds really cool and is fun to drive and we can buy it for 50 grand. That's newsworthy. Because honestly, at the end of the day, who gives a rat's what rich guy's overpowered, pointy, shiny car of exotic materials that, like, don't matter goes faster anymore? It doesn't matter. And they're playing you. I swear to God, they're playing you. They're playing me. I'm reporting on it. But at least I want to call BS. BS that it's just stupid. Screw it. Like, screw it. And, like, for you 13-year-old boys that are watching this or that, guys, cars are cool. But you know what's cooler? Being able to actually afford them or use them in the real world, or have ones that don't have to be maintained by a gajillionaire all the time. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there is more to life. In fact, you know what? Build a car, go enter IMSA racing, go enter a real racing series, do something cool. Or, you know what, better yet, start a racing series that isn't a spec series for wealthy people. That would be cool. Oh man, this kind of turned into a Casey rant. That's pretty good. Anyway, I guess I just don't really care, because who cares? They're probably playing us. They might be idiots. Or both. That's it, guys. Let's have a little fun. We'll figure out what shakes out sooner or later, and maybe I'll report on it. I'll see you guys next time.